Hetepu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Haru Nepper. This is Kasak Ma Keparu with another video for you. And in this video, I want to talk about how reality adjusts for your needs. But before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. And if it's your first time to my channel, hit the subscribe button to get notifications when I go live or upload recorded videos. And don't forget to become a member of our Patreon. As a Patreon supporter, you get exclusive access to instructional videos, videos that deal with the esoteric, videos on how to perform a ritual, proper breathing techniques, how to conduct hypnosis, how to work with the oracles, and so much more. So consider becoming a Patreon supporter for just $1 or $5 per month. And don't forget, you can cancel at any time. So let's go into the subject matter at hand. And this actually is a very, very good one. And I want you to, when you start looking at the esoteric community or the New Age community, I don't want you to look at them as one monolithic group. There are many factions or sections of these groups that you'll have to keep in mind with their own different philosophies and ideas. That's important because they're going to use different nomenclature. They're going to, some people will refer to things such as 3D or third density or 4D, fourth density. Others will call it the matrix. Some people will call it the holographic universe. So don't worry too much about the terminology. It can be interchangeable in ways, just as when you look down at the religions such as Catholicism, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, there is a fundamental truth to all of them. There is a core system that works. And what I like to do is explore that system, go in there and look beyond the surface and say, what is the basis of all of these religions? Well, one of the bases is trance induction, that in order to have a revelation or talk in tongues or possess the Holy Ghost, you must go into an alternate state of consciousness. That is across the board. That is what all of the religions practice, whether they call it, as I said, by different nomenclatures like possessing the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, or speaking in tongues, or having a revelation or an epiphany, whatever it is. The basis of that is going into an alternate state of consciousness, which is trance induction. If you start looking at religions in that way, trying to look at or extrapolate what is the fundamental principles that make that religion work or govern it, you'll see certain things that go across religions. As I said before, trance induction, another one is using avatars, or using iconography, or using images, whatever you want to call it, archetypes, as the basis for your power. In other words, I spoke about Joshua, Jesus. And Jesus is just he's a archetype or a type of avatar to where you can place your faith in and believe that fictional character can get you out of your situation, because the way the religions paint you, the human being, is one who is fallible, who's a sinner. So therefore, knowing the psychology of the mind, you can't then trick yourself into believing you can perform a miracle, because you've already been indoctrinated and accepted the belief system that you are a fallible creature, you are a sinner, so therefore, how could you perform miracles? So in order to navigate that and go around that, most of the religions create an outside entity, a figurehead. And that person is a Jesus, a Buddha, a Muhammad. And as Bashar says, these are permission slips. They give your subconscious mind permission to work its magic. Because again, you don't believe that you could do it yourself. But we, in this Kemetic religion that I teach to you, we take it back to its source, meaning I place the faith within you and I place the belief within you. But still, we do drop back and we use avatars. We use archetypes. Oser is one, Aset, Ma'at are others. But realistically, they're all within you. But again, your mind needs to be tricked into believing in an external force to get you out of your situation. So we create these archetypes for you. Now, one of the things that I want you to know, and leading back up to the subject matter at hand, is the idea of the matrix. Now, for this discussion, let's not refer to it as the matrix. I want to refer to it as the energetic field. And this field is the field that when you observe it or you look into it, it collapses into one of an infinite number of possibilities. So quantum mechanics tells us these are probabilities that exist. And depending upon you, the believer, and what you hold dear, your core belief system, when you look into the energetic field, what are you going to see? It is whatever your belief system, your strongest belief system dictates. So in other words, this energetic field is conscious, is awake, and it's interactive. It is interacting with your consciousness. It's plugged directly into your consciousness, not the person who you think you are, but is plugged directly into the true source of who you are, which is consciousness. And that consciousness, when it takes or it gets impregnated as an immaculate conception of Isis or Mary or Aset, when it gets impregnated with an idea, it then manifests that idea in the third dimension. One of the things that you need to be aware of is the fact that it is constantly adjusting and upgrading. Well, what do I mean with that? Maybe let me give you this example. I had a friend who was doing pickup, and he would go and try to pick up women on the street and things of that nature. He belonged to organizations that were about pickup. And I remember him saying that when he started in pickup 5 years ago, it was very easy. Things were smooth. And he said, lo and behold, 5 years later, the techniques that he's using no longer work, and it's become more of a challenge for him to meet women. And he wondered why. And I put it to him this way. I said, because the energetic field now understands and is adapting. So it has upgraded itself. So what I mean by that is that we all are connected to what we call the oversoul, or we can call it a pendulum. We can call it whatever we want. And this oversoul is collecting data and information from the third dimensional experience. And this oversoul is learning, it's adjusting, and it's improving. Because evolution is not about evolving, being independent and changing, but it's reacting or adapting or adaptation to your circumstances and your environment. So what the energetic field has did is it's taken in information and is had women download information. So his downloaded information into these women that no longer makes your pickup lines effective. So the energetic field is now becoming, it's conscious and it's becoming smarter and it's adjusting. Do you understand? So let's say, for example, you become so-called awake or conscious. Well, what then happens is the energetic field adjusts to now an awake, a conscious person. And now it's going to put specific challenges in your way and circumstances in your way that call for a very spiritual person to deal with. Because prior to your awakening as a spiritual being, you did not have such challenges or ideas. But now that you become spiritual, you'll notice how those specific challenges now come to you. And that's because the energetic field, the matrix, whatever you want to call it, is conscious, it's interactive, it's dynamic. It is now interacting with you and creating greater challenges and presenting to you unique and formidable challenges. So what's the lesson? Don't get smart. You're taking a test, you're learning a subject matter, and you want to become an expert, a subject matter expert. Well, you think you've mastered it, lo and behold, there are new problems to solve, new theories to explore. How did that happen? The energetic field now is creating these things for you. In the same way where we have, every time we have in sports, we have records that some people can't break, but the energetic field comes along and creates a person who can break those records. So you have to understand that what you're dealing with is conscious, it's awake, and it wants to interact with you. You're going to do a dance with it. And your survival is dependent upon if you can adjust accordingly. In fact, the great I-ching, the Chinese oracle, is named after that, the Book of Changes. Because in that book, it prescribed proverbs, Chinese proverbs or Chinese sayings, which don't give you fixed, static advice that's very cookie cutter that anyone can follow and has to follow. It gives you very specific advice on how to change and adapt to meet your newfound circumstance. Because all of our situations are unique because we are living in a third dimensional subjective experience, not objective. We all do not live in the same space-time continuum. Some of us live in the past, some of us live in the future, some of us live in the present. Again, these are just nomenclatures. So when you think that you are learning more and breaking ground, lo and behold, you'll find a unique challenge will suddenly appear. That is the matrix, that is the energetic field presenting you with something new and exciting for you to deal with. Now, shouldn't be odd to you or anything new, because when you look at nature or neter, you will see that all forms of life go through an adaptation process. And that specifically, living organisms on this planet have so-called evolved to fit or adapt to their environment, their surroundings. People from a hot climate have adapted to darker melanin complexion. People to a colder, harsher climate have adapted to a less pigmented white color. And then you look at the phenotypes, you look at the broad nose to allow more air into it, or the more narrow nose to allow less air into it, because you don't want to have cold air coming into the nostrils if you're from a cold climate, Europe. So your nostrils are more narrow. So I want you to understand that even looking back at nature, neter, that there is an intelligence, a divine intelligence at work there, adjusting, adapting life forms to survive in their environment. And this adaptation process may be incremental and over the course of thousands of years, but nonetheless, it's still there and happening. Only an intelligence could do that, could examine the environment and say, for this organism to live in an environment, it must have 2 eyes, tentacles, secretes stuff from its pores. You know what I'm saying? And then it causes that to come into manifestation. That's brilliant. God does not manifest himself, herself in the physical realm as a physical entity. The evidence of God can be extrapolated from what we witness every day. If you look at the underpinnings of how life works, the core essence of it, and not just the surface, you will see commonalities. You will see patterns. The evolution of species and creatures are merely going through a so-called evolution or adaptation process for the purposes of survival on this planet. But we have Western man come along, and Western man says, well, the reason that these things are evolving is to become the perfect human being or the perfect person. Hence, now we get into the master race idea that the Third Reich made so famous. But that is not true. That is not what neter, the intelligence in the energetic field or the matrix, is doing. It is not trying to make a master race, because it has already made a master person, and that is you, the divine being. You cannot add to it, you cannot subtract it, you are complete. So the physicality in this third dimensional experience is adapting to survive on Geb or Gaia. The intelligence is just doing what it needs to do to ensure your survival. This is why I've documented many times, and most people don't get this. And I hate to toot my own horn, but it's really, really an important and impressive finding, is that during times of starvation, the right hemisphere of the brain, the seat of morality, shuts down and the left brain kicks in. Why does that happen during the period of starvation? Because the right hemisphere of the brain thinks collectively, communally, cooperatively. When there is famine and starvation, that has to go out the window. You can't be thinking about collectively. You can't be thinking about collaborating. You have to be thinking about self, the individual. This is why the left brain kicks in. Short circuits the morality function. Says, damn, with morality, we got to get some food. So I want you to understand that. You know, and that's not to say one is superior or the other. What do I mean by that? Well, I've documented in my book, The New Capital Ankh, the key to manifesting your own reality, is that people who like melanin white people are coming from a colder, harsher climate, so they are more polarized in left brain thinking, more thinking individuality as an individual. Whereas people in a warmer climate, people of color or pigmentation, have developed the right brain, so they think more in terms of collective. Because they can afford to. The food is abundant. But as I said before, does that make one superior over the other? No, it does not. It is just about how you have adapted for your environment and your surroundings. This is why you have to learn to be the type of person who can navigate through life and deal with these things that come up through the energetic field. And as a priest, my advice to you would be to study the esoteric, to study the underpinnings of how the universe and all things work, so that you won't get your butt kicked in life. This means understanding how the matrix functions and being able to call upon the reality that you so desire and you so want, but not allow the energetic field of the matrix to manifest a reality that is based on your deepest, darkest fears. Because that's a reality that you don't want to experience, right? But in order to do this, you must understand that this energetic field is always tied to your consciousness and will always adapt, change as you adapt and change. When your belief system changes, the reality that you experience changes. And I talked about this before, how individuals have come to me and say they're arguing with their mate. Their mate's a different person now. It's not like when they first got together. And I tell them that your mate is a different person because your belief system has changed. Who you are has changed. Okay, your belief system has changed. So that means that everything you're interacting with has changed too, because you've now created a new reality for yourself, because you've upgraded. And because you've upgraded, reality now has to upgrade to give you more of a push and a challenge in a certain direction. You follow me here? Pomona, namaste. So let us think of reality not as a fixed idea or a fixed reality. Let us think of it as a conscious entity that could be working with us or against us. And understand that when you upgrade, it's going to upgrade. And let me give you an example of that. One that comes directly out of the education system in college, if you know that when you take an individual who may not be a smart individual on par with everybody else in this class, let's say you take a C individual and you put him around A plus students. What happens to that C individual? He gets upgraded, and he'll notice his performance will increase and improve. He doesn't need to be studying with the A plus students. He doesn't need to be in direct proximity, but just in a certain radius. And through the energetic field, information will be transferred psychically to him, and he will become at least a B student. This is documented. Doorkeeper, Hetep. This is why many of us are kept out of the prestigious universities or the inner circles of the real knowledge of the religions and the solar system. We're kept far away from that, because if we got into close proximity, we would be upgraded. We would attain that information by being around Black magicians or sages or shaman. This is why they're recluse. This is why you won't readily find them. But rest assured, if most of your friends are subpar, have subpar intelligence, and you hang with them on a consistent basis, you will develop subpar intelligence as well. That's the law. That's how it works. The law of Ma'at, the interdependence between things, the interrelationship and interdependence between all things. This is what we call is quantum entanglement. We are all connected in a web of interdependence. And it would take a right brain person to understand this, because the left brain philosophers and scientists of yesteryear screwed it up. They kept looking at everything as separate and as linear. So the so-called Western scholars or European scholars, who were primarily trapped in left brain thinking, linear space-time, came up with all kinds of erroneous ideas that are still being taught in the major universities today. And one of those ideas, which I've already expressed to you, is that there is a thing called evolution, as if something evolves independently and on its own. And that's not true. Although they can say that Darwin didn't really mean that. Darwin meant the best adapt would survive or inherit the earth. But Darwin was surrounded by racists. So I can't see how he didn't pick up on that racism himself. I know that whenever I am working toward a goal in my life and I put a lot of importance on achieving that thing, I have to step back and say, Kasank, emotionally stand apart from that thing you desire, because you placing importance upon that thing causes the energetic field to now pull it from your grasp, pull it out of your reach. In his book, Reality Transurfing, Vadim Zeland calls it excess importance, that you must not place excess importance on the thing you wish to manifest, because you'll do the reverse, because the energetic field is interacting with you. It knows what you want, and therefore it will create challenges for you to get it if you place too much importance upon it. This is why we have the archetype, the avatar of Heru. Heru's a hawk. He's narrowly focused. But more importantly, he stands for Meneb, keeping the heart still to live truth. He's stoic, for those of you who study Stoicism, meaning he cannot be emotionally moved left or right, that he is still. Because when you can be that way, the matrix or the energetic field has nothing to manifest to challenge you with, because you have checked your belief systems. You're not afraid of this, you're not worried about that, so they won't manifest. And this has been the goal of the Cometian people. And this was their goal for humanity, was that we would get to a point where we would still the thought process and intuit God's will, and also create a world, a vibrational field that is one of peace and love. You cannot have peace without meneb, meaning the ability to still your heart, to not be emotionally compelled. Those who are in the Christian religions, the pastors and preachers, the ministers who profess that because they have been saved, they're full of happy thoughts and happy, are a bunch of liars. And they're the worst type of people. Because you need a process to show you how to still the heart. And that comes from the right belief systems, the right meditation techniques, and more importantly, the right breathing techniques. When you have mastered those techniques, then you have the ability to ignore your emotions. But no reading of scripture or no accepting a figure into your life will get you to a state of utter and complete peace. That is bull. That is nonsense. It's nonsense for me to say, just because I accept Jesus, I am now have a life that's full of happiness. No, you're putting on a facade, because biologically, it doesn't work that way. Your cells encode memories, events, triggers. And when those triggers or those buttons are pushed, you react in certain ways. And the only way to deal with that is to reprogram yourself through meditation, breathing, mantras. There is no easy way out. There is no quick fix. This is why you need a process. Call it religion, call it Christianity, call it Catholicism. Those are attempts at a process to get you to be at peace, but they have been perverted by men and women. And they have been regurgitated and fed back to you in ways that only benefit the few. And they've been used as a control mechanism to keep you in check, so that you will never come into your own understanding of your own power. That you will forever rely on the outside entity, a permission slip, to get you to perform miracles and do things. So what I'm saying to you is this. There is the energetic field that can give you what you want. Or you can allow it to just manifest the things it's going to manifest based on what's in your subconscious mind. The choice is yours. But one way or another, it's going to adjust to you, and it's going to constantly change. One of the things that these psychic researchers were studying were these interdimensional entities. And one of the things that they found, that whenever they tried to film these entities or do any in-depth real study into them, they kept changing on them. Whenever there was an expectation of how they should react, they suddenly changed. So I postulated and I proposed to them that they're dealing with a type of consciousness or energetic field. that's responding to their consciousness, which is all one consciousness, really, but with different vibrational frequencies. Diron Battle, thank you, Dwa. So keep that in mind, because the ruling elite, the ones who control this planet, understand how the energetic field works, and they do rituals, sacrifices to manipulate the energetic field to bring us what you see before you. Hell on earth. And the secret that has been kept from the masses of people on this planet is the fact that the energetic field is there to grant them their wishes. But we're too stupid, dumb, deaf, and blind to realize this. So we go about our daily lives not believing in this. And if you come to me as an idiot, as a mental midget, saying, I don't believe in that energetic field stuff, I don't believe in that metaphysical field stuff, get the hell out of my face. Because you're too stupid to be here. Those individuals are primitive because you are not the physical being, you're a consciousness. And that is a fundamental thing that can be concluded from observation. Obvious that you're a metaphysical being. So don't tell me you don't believe in that metaphysical stuff. You cannot ignore this, because to do so is to ignore a gift that you have a say in how your life unfolds. You have a say in the challenges and the obstacles that come your way. You're not just sitting here and accepting it all and say, well, this is my lot in life. This is what I have to go through. No, it's not. You're a powerful God. Now start to exercise your power. Start to awaken Oser, the God within you. Start to communicate with the energetic field, the matrix, because it does listen to you. It understands the language of emotions and visuals. So start communicating it emotionally and visually, communicate to it what you want. And watch how it will manifest it for you. But if you ignore it, if you ignore air, what happens? It's still going to be there. If you ignore the energetic field, what happens? It's still going to be there and still present challenges to you. So in reality, you have no choice but to acknowledge it and work with it for your benefit. It is intelligent. In fact, in most cases, it is just as intelligent as you because it's part of you. You're plugged into it. People come along and they talk about synchronicity or how things happen in threes. And, oh, I was just talking about that. And now I saw that the other day. Yeah. Duh. It's manifesting for you. You are a manifesting machine. You are a reality generating machine. That's what you are. So the best, Hetep, let me just read what you said. Nice to listen again. How does time delay come in? First question, time delay. So the reality that you and I are experiencing and seeing is not the reality that is. because there's a delay between the time that information comes, meaning that light information from the photons and hits your retina and is processed. There's a big delay in that. So in the fifth dimension, the 5D, you can manifest things instantaneously. So we know that our true state is in 5D, that there is no space-time limitation, but that only exists in 3D, third dimension. And the reason that it exists is for the sake of process, to have a beginning, middle, and an end, so that we can have a linear experience, or what we perceive to be a linear experience. The other question is, from non-physical to physical, does synchronicity show signs, or does letting go play a part? I've been persistent in seeing sync nonstop. Synchronicity happens when you have a strong belief system, so things will start to synchronize to let you know that the energetic field is bouncing off your thoughts. That's what it's doing. It's bouncing off your thoughts. And when you have such synchronicities, it means that your emotional attachment is very strong, which is why this synchronicity is there. And you can call forth synchronicities at any one time. You can do that at will. They don't have to happen. But remember, everything is subject to change. So change is a constant. But I have to end our broadcast. So I just want to say thank you, all you Magites, for attending. Suan Hetepu. This is Kasak Ma Keperu, son of Ma and Tahuti. And my aunt is the beautiful goddess Heteru. Until my next broadcast, Amun Ra.